Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Wild Portishead live show. We're joined tonight by Mr. Chris Sperring, MBE, CDM as well, good Lord, and also by Councillor Peter Burden. Chris, I think we've seen by our cover picture tonight, Nature Under Attack, a troubling development for wildlife. And this is because local plans are not looking good for some of our woodland, are they, Chris?
No, not at all. And your introduction was absolutely perfect. Except I would add troubling times for people as well. Where are the people going to go? If we're going to expand our town, if the town's going to get bigger, where do they go? Where do they go for their opportunity to be under woodland canopy? Where do they go for their bit of solitude and to listen to a mass chorus of birds as opposed to just a few species singing? So I see this very much as a war on nature, as is described by several now very prominent conservationists across the country. And that's the other thing. That's the takeaway thing from the Somerset Hall, which I think both of you hopefully will agree with, is that it's not just us. It seems to be every community in the country is basically up in arms. And it's, I don't know, we've got somebody with us as a guest tonight who's far more politically minded than you or I, Jonathan, but how many thousands or millions of people does it take to get through to a government? Hang on a minute, people are really worried about this. So we've got Councillor Peter Burden. I'm going to ask you a question, Pete, to kick off with before Jonathan gets going, and that is basically you were introduced at the Somerset Hall as somebody with vast experience of planning. How long have you been a councillor?
On and off since 1976.
And how long of that has been in planning, Pete?
I've been on a planning committee or executive member for planning, all but 4 years of that. Brilliant. At North Somerset, at Woodspring District Council, North Somerset Council, and I was party spokesman at Avon County Council. So
where do you see all this in terms of, because it's not just here, is it?
It isn't, no. And I can totally understand the government's desire to dramatically increase the number of houses being built. The one problem I've got is by just increasing the number everywhere throughout the country, it isn't going to work. North Somerset had a local plan ready to go to government for an planning inspector with 14,000 houses in it back nearly 3 years ago. Slight change in government policy then and the way the housing figures were adapted, up that to 15,257. Again, could be accommodated within a 15-year period. Because I don't think people realise that if the council can't provide a 5-year land bank of available land, any development is deemed sustainable to the planning inspectorate. So that's the problem. But then we've got the present government suddenly come into power and decide arbitrarily that North Somerset's housing figures have to go up to 23,605, which means the entire strategy of the district council to propose housing majority around Weston and to allow small increases to our existing towns just went out the window. And I have a lot of sympathy for the administration at North Somerset with the problem they find themselves in. The real issue, the only real problem I've got is, as a councillor for Portishead, I happen to believe that Weston Bigwood is a key feature worthy of protection. When it was under threat in the 1980s, a sound ecological piece of work took 2 or 3 years to work out, and Avon County decided it was worth extending the greenbelt to surround Weston Bigwood. And bluntly, I think nothing has changed since the 1980s If
Yeah.
only the need to protect that area isn't great. This is why I'm apologise that thanks to the creative structure developers offered, near the book.
Yeah, we didn't catch any of that, I'm afraid, Peter. Your
But
audio went out.
yeah, yeah, but I think you were basically saying that you're horrified with the extent of the removal of the green belt from around
Around Western
Western.
Bigwood.
Yes, given the fact that in the 1980s, an inspector basically agreed that's the buffer as it
Yeah.
is today. And as we were talking off air before we got going, you say that that not a lot has changed to warrant that coming out. I would say that nature's going down the panhole in that time, and Western Bigwood has become much more important as a wildlife refuge, and also not just as a wildlife refuge, but also as a major link to the Gordano Valley itself. The importance of the Gordano Valley. So yeah, I mean, I can't understand when the maps went up at the Somerset Hall when we had the public meeting. Just it's just so close to the wood. There is no way the wood can survive. We went through 2020 with the pandemic and the amount of footfall through that woodland during the pandemic, with people taking their walks through. Basically, more paths got opened up. The wood started to become fragmented. And you can see exactly what's going to happen. And I would argue that fragmentation has already begun.
We've got a question here from Sarah Heinem, who says, what I don't understand also is that how do they think we can support these houses with the poor infrastructure we have anyway, let alone using the greenbelt so that people have nowhere to go? Now that's been a perennial problem with Portishead is, and this is something that I've kind of like highlighted down the years, is the town ended up being developed faster than any infrastructure could catch up with it. Now, of course, what we've got at the moment is you've got developers are all pointing at the railway and saying, well, you're getting the railway back. We are getting the railway back, but frankly, that railway is to mitigate for decades ago. It's not to mitigate for now. And it's notable that in the last couple of weeks, a lot of the major wildlife charities, and I'm thinking of the Wildlife Trusts and the RSPB, have spoken out against these government plans for development and house building, and saying how potentially damaging this can be for wildlife, catastrophic even for wildlife. And it's an opinion I certainly share, because I think the concern I have is that and this was borne out last week when I was actually in Sea Mills, of all places, and so much of Sea Mills ended up being built and developed after the First World War because there was a housing shortage. And what you had with Sea Mills was a lot of the housing that was built there was built by the state, and it stayed in the state. And so it did actually alleviate the housing problem. The same post-war, Second World War, when we were going through building prefabs and whatever. And these were all houses that went into the social housing stock. Unfortunately, in the last 30 years, a lot of that stock was allowed to be sold off to the private sector. And what we've got is a situation now where we are putting the supply of housing and building new houses in the hands of people for whom, quite frankly, a shortage is more profitable. So they're only ever going to release as much housing as is going to keep them keep the profits good. It's not going to be, like I say, it's not going to be like the post-war periods, the two post-war periods, where there was a massive state-sponsored house building scheme. This isn't it, and I honestly don't think, I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but I honestly don't think we are going to solve anything. You can build these 26,000 homes in North Somerset over the next decade or so. I don't think it's going to solve anything, because it's all going to remain in the hands of the property developers. And that's my rant out of the way.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. The problem is, if you want to argue the infrastructure argument, there isn't anywhere in North Somerset that you can't use that argument on. I used to represent Backwell, and they've got the issues. And now look at the vast number of houses that have been fired into Pill and Eastern Ingledano, and they've got worse infrastructure than we've got. And they've been told that the railway station's there to help them as well as us. The one thing I see we have an argument in Portishead that I think is sound and we have to do our best with is the ecological argument about not building too close to Western Bigwood. And it's vital to keep a connection between the wood and the floor of the valley.
Just a little bit of housekeeping here. So we did send out requests tonight to some of our other district councillors. We did put out an offer to our MP to see if he wanted to come onto the show. Sad to say, not a response from him. We've got absentees tonight. So this is Councillor Nicola Holland, and this is a statement from her. And she says, I stand with Portishead Town Council in decrying this decision to put forward Tower Farm and other land surrounding the SSSI, which is a site of special scientific interest, Western Bigwood, for the local plan. We have brownfield that needs to be developed first and infrastructure that needs to be improved after years of overdevelopment. The Town Council have plans that I fully support to challenge this decision, and I will do whatever I can to assist. So that's Councillor Nicola Holland's take on it. We've got some more statements, but we'll read them out in due course.
Can I cut in there and get Peter to join in on that and basically say, Peter, is that? I mean, the three of us, we were at the meeting. We've got a good idea of what Portishead Town Council is proposing. So the straight question to you, Peter, as the experienced planner, is that actually the way forward, whereby a local council actually says, not there, but actually this is better, and these are the reasons why?
It's basically how we protected the wood last time, Chris. I've just seen Paul Gardner's comments that he's proposing to put into the local plan. I've only read through half of them because I didn't get home till 5 o'clock tonight. But I'm convinced they are on the right track. They've picked out a sound number of ecological issues. They've also picked up issues of land in and around the area that would be better to develop than the sites around Western Bigwood.
So this is the way forward. This is the only answer.
Well, when you and I met with Paul at the beginning of this process, going back a couple of years now,
yep,
because we were concerned about it, and I'm convinced the only real argument we've got above any other town in North Somerset is the importance of the wood. And we've also got some, not a lot, but we've got some brownfield land which should be developed before any other land is touched.
And in fairness, before this government came to power, that is exactly what they were saying, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The local plan had been going through various tortuous stages because of changes, but the significant change that the council made was to move from 14,000 houses to 15,250 over 15 years, because the calculations had changed as to our housing need. Now, that, at the time, struck the council as an awful lot of work to find an extra 1,000 houses. And then suddenly, we've got this government putting on 23,500 houses needed, which is an impossible task.
That's effectively a new. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's effectively a new Portishead somewhere, isn't it?
Yes, in 15 years.
Yeah.
And the one site the district went for is the site near Bristol around the Woodspring Golf Club, which had been proposed years ago and not taken forward. But that struck me as a reasonable one to take out of the Greenbelt because it's near to Bristol. It's got a ring road. You can easily get to Parsons Street Station and has a lot going for it. And that can take 5,500 houses, which, if we hadn't got this crazy increase, it would have worked.
I've got a comment here from viewer Laura. She says, why does it have to be the town council who does this rather than North Somerset Council though? The facts are the facts, and our district councillors should surely reject the plan for the same reasons. I'll throw that one out there. There we go.
I don't disagree, actually, Jonathan. I was actually surprised initially at the low level of objection to the sites when they first came in. Because low level. Sorry to interrupt. Low level of objection from whom? Councillors in general.
Right.
All right. I'm probably a nerd when it comes to planning, and I look at these documents. But when it was decided initially the way the council would move forward, they basically published a letter to all landowners saying, if you've got some land you think can help us out with this problem, please tell us. And they did. And of course, they came forward by a very large number. And then various subcommittees were around whittling down the sites. And I was really surprised at the low level of councillor involvement in whittling down these sites.
Wow.
Now, the consultation that happened in February, I think it was February, the vast area of land between Underwood Road and the Forehill in Portishead was actually up for development. The town council got a sensible group of people at Northwestern Village Hall, encouraged them to fill in the forms, and I think that's the reason why that piece of land was taken out. But there hadn't been that much. Chris and I, we walked Amanika Waite, who's the executive member, we walked her around the bottom of the wood. And we asked, have you been anywhere else around here? And the answer was no. So I think it's a problem with planning. People seem to come to it very late. And this is the very last minute. If you don't get your comments in by Friday, you might as well give up. And
that's the reason we're doing the programme tonight. Yep.
And I know certain councillors have said they might vote against the proposal when it comes to council. But the real issue is the next time an ordinary district councillor will have a right to vote on this matter, it will have already been approved by a government inspector. So best of luck if you want to change anything then.
I'm just going to read out a statement that we've got from Roger Whitfield this evening. He's the Cabinet Member for Adult Social Services at North Somerset Council. He says, I'll try and skip through this one. He says, North Somerset Council have developed a draft local plan. This is an essential document that gives your council the ability to set out where development is to be placed within the area of North Somerset. The local plan is developed through a process that starts with a call for sites. This is where the council asks landowners to put forward sites that they are prepared to have developed. Each site is then assessed against a number of criteria, both national and local, to determine if the site aligns with these rules. They are things such as sustainable locations and flood risk. The call for sites brought forward many areas that have failed due to flood risk and a number that are in unsustainable locations, which means locations without services and infrastructure. What remains in the local plan have passed these criteria. This work was done by planning experts and with input from all of your North Somerset councillors. The value of the local plan is that it completely stops development that is outside of the plan. So in essence, it protects all areas of Portishead that are not included in the plan. But it can only do this if it contains a credible 5-year housing supply and complies with the government's housing figures. If it fails in either of these, then it is worthless and developers will continue to prioritise greenfield sites across North Somerset. When it comes to the site close to Weston Bigwood, I believe this is the wrong decision. Not only does it endanger the wildlife in this area and the sustainability of the woodland, but it also places homes into an area that has severe traffic problems and is poorly served by shops and services, most of which are located at the bottom of the hill, which has access restricted by the road layout. Now, the problem is that if we pull these houses from the local plan, it will adversely affect the 5-year housing supply because greenfield sites can be delivered at greater speed than brownfield sites. If we don't have a 5-year supply, then this area can be developed anyway, as the government will push the plans through. This is why there are no easy answers. I'm going to wrap this in a second. To fully protect this area, we need to locate the housing elsewhere, which potentially opens up the Wyndham Way site for higher density housing. This brings the much needed housing within easy walking distance of the shops, services, and of course the new railway station. But it does have a much longer delivery envelope, potentially adversely affecting the 5-year housing supply. Portishead Town Council are working with a planning consultant to develop objections to this housing development as well as alternative location for these houses. And I would encourage everyone who is concerned to respond to the consultation, write to their MP and support Portishead Town Council in its bid to raise objections and develop alternatives. Last paragraph. Finally, I would like to say that the local housing needs assessment for North Somerset shows that we need around 15,000 new homes. However, the government has decided that North Somerset should develop 24,495 new homes. This is the reason why sites such as Weston Bigwood have come under such pressure. If the government had changed its figures to the number of houses that the area actually needs, then this could have been easily accommodated by the developments within Weston-super-Mare and surrounding areas without the need to endanger our wildlife and environment in Portishead. And that's a statement from Roger Whitfield. So we're grateful to him for that. Comments, gentlemen?
I think
agree with him.
yeah, I was going to say that's more or less what you've been saying, isn't it, Peter, all the way through this so far? That's I mean, that's almost identical. So
Yeah. Well,
it's nice to
yeah.
have two councillors at least who are in agreement from different ends of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
I am going to put up. I had a chat with Councillor Paul Gardner last night. We've shot a video. The video will be going up possibly tomorrow. I think it's fair to say Paul's in broad agreement with those two statements. Like I say, we did put the we did have a comment we did have a statement from Councillor Tim Snaden. Unfortunately, Tim, I cannot find your statement on the chat in the chat room. But if you're watching and you can ping it over to us, then we'll read that one out as well. But yeah, there seems to be a consistent, message here, which is the government's targets are utterly unrealistic. And B, there are sites in the area within the vicinity that can be developed without having to go looking at our green belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That message is coming through very clearly, isn't it? And I just wonder this our label for this whole program is the attack or the war on nature, which is also repeated around the country by, as I repeat myself, some of the top conservationists in the country are saying exactly the same thing. I just
Yeah.
wonder how much of that and how much of this, well, let's go building houses, is caused by this ridiculous speech that a certain politician made in Parliament, where it was no newt or bat would get in the way of this. They would be literally thrown aside, and these new houses would go up. And if you object, if you dare object, we'll just give the keys to the developer and they can go in the fields and start developing. How much of that is caused by that one speech?
Yeah.
I just wonder.
All right, I found Councillor Tim Snaden's comments here. Tim says, my perspective is that infrastructure developed should precede any further expansion, and we should prioritise the utilisation of all brownfield sites adhering strictly to the neighbourhood plan. I strongly advocate for the provision of social housing over merely affordable options. It is concerning when the agreed upon numbers for affordable housing decrease during development, often due to financial motivations. Furthermore, it appears that all governments, past and present, often do not adequately support communities, and developers' practice of land banking contributes to housing shortages and increased demand. That's a statement from Councillor Tim Snaden. Land banking, oh my goodness me, where do we start with that?
Peter?
It's the government insists that a council must have a 5-year supply of available land. You go through the situation at the inquiry that's going to happen. You are going to get developers arguing with each other, and some will try and convince the inspector that their land will be truly available. And as soon as they have planning permission for it, they'll come up with all the reasons why it's for infrastructure.
Sorry, Peter, could you repeat that again? We lost you again. Your microphone.
Is that better?
Yeah. I think your mic is slightly out of range.
Right. Okay. It's where developers get their land and then deliberately find reasons to slow down the development so that land in the area goes up in value because of a shortage.
Yep.
And this is something which government has to find a way of tackling. It's been talked about for years, but no government seems prepared to take on the vested interests of the 3 or 4 major house builders. Because when you sit in on a planning inquiry and the council come up with all these land which they've actually given planning permission for, and the developers just point out, oh no, we can't build this one because of X or that one because of Y, so they get yet another greenfield site.
Yep.
And I really think there has to be a way of taxing, whether you tax development land perhaps, or find some way of making sure developers actually build the permissions they've got.
And I think one of the other things I would like to see is a proper audit of what is out there in terms of the amount of empty houses, empty properties, developments that have been built that have not been utilized yet, and just to have a snapshot of what is out there before we start digging up, green belt, is to try and find out what is the capacity we've got. How much does that capacity actually? How much of that capacity would actually make a dent into our shortage? But also, again, why do we have a shortage? What is causing that shortage?
Profit. I think if you go back in time to our previous MP who stood up in Parliament and did a speech which even you, Jonathan, went, "Oh my God, that must be the first time I've ever agreed with Liam
Yeah,
Fox." And yeah, and he was basically giving figures in that speech of the amount of properties around Bristol that were not occupied or could be done up or blah blah blah, and basically said to his own party, to his own government, you sort that bit out first before you come building in North Somerset.
yeah.
Well,
No, I remember that, and I completely agree.
You fell
Um,
off the chair, if I remember.
No, do you know what? In all my engagements I ever had with Dr. Liam Fox, I always got on very well with him, and I always found him a very personable guy. So yeah, we've got a
yeah.
message coming through here. I've got talk amongst yourselves while I deal with the message. Bu- 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 bum.
You might
No,
have a comment from Felton Common, because don't forget we aren't on our own. So last week, Paul and I went over to Nelsey and Backwell
yeah,
to a meeting. Where I did a wildlife thing over there, and they've got very similar that we've got here. And obviously, there's issues at Felton Common. Have you got that Felton Common one to hand? Because as
I
we've got a
do.
senior councillor with us, he might be
Yeah.
able to answer it.
Here we go. This is an email from Melanie. She says, please could you ask if the councillors this evening will not be supporting the outrageous detrimental implications from Bristol Airport, who are seeking to deregulate some of Felton Common that has been owned and used in grazing and for the local community's use for centuries. It will affect us all greatly with the increased noise and lower airplanes flying over the villages and the light pollution caused by installing the lights on the common, and affect the foraging and nesting habits of the incredible variety of wildlife that calls it home there. The offering of poorer botanical land in exchange alongside the A38 is unacceptable, and it is questionable the need for this land. The road infrastructure cannot accommodate more vehicles if this goes ahead for 3 million more passengers, of which 80% come by car or taxi because of the poor transport. There is an alternate option on the western side of their land that needs to be costed. Please confirm you will not be supporting their proposal. And that's from viewer Melanie. So strong words, but again, I completely agree with her.
Can I put this into perspective, Jonathan?
Go on.
I would love to be able to stand up and say I agree or I disagree when people ask me for my view on a planning application. The trouble is, I serve on a planning committee and we are duty bound to enter the meeting with an open mind,
Hmm.
which means anybody, and I've seen it happen, where people have fought an election saying they are against development in a particular field and they haven't been able to sit on the planning committee to, to debate it. So my standard comment is, I have a view on these matters. I like to conserve the countryside and nature wherever I can, but I will listen to the report the officers put forward prior to deciding how to vote.
Hmm.
It's a horrible catchphrase, but it's the only way I can guarantee to my electorate that I can turn up at a meeting and vote how I want to without being barred from attending the meeting.
Yeah, sorry, Peter, we lost you at the end there. Your microphone went all muffled again.
Yeah.
Sorry, guaranteed that you can turn up to the meeting.
And vote how I want to.
Yeah.
Because if I've gone in with predetermined views, I'm not allowed to be in the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Chris, consultation ends this Friday. So what can we? Obviously, we can't steer people to say to what they should say, but what helpful pointers can we give them if they want to make comments on the consultation?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask there, because I don't have the experience that somebody like Peter has with these
Come on.
consultations.
It's public consultation, Chris. It has to be the genuine view of the person.
Yes.
Officers, planning officers, government inspectors
I
can
always
see
worry.
a written letter, a photocopied letter a mile off.
Yep.
If it's got to be people
music to my ears, because what I was worried about this was that it was just an exercise as opposed to a genuine look at people's views.
I asked Amanika Wright at the executive meeting where this plan went out to consultation.
Yep.
Is this, in your view, a genuine consultation? And is it possible for you to change things or amend? And she said yes.
Right.
So
okay,
we have to take people at their voice.
Then absolutely I can answer it, Jonathan, and basically say that we've got till Friday. I can't remember what the time is, but there's a time, isn't there? There's a cut-off time.
Yeah.
So I mean, get your responses to North Somerset in ASAP, and if you have got time, please also copy that to our MP. We need to let him know how his constituents feel, and so far I think he's ignoring that. I'm sorry to say, I believe he's ignoring what his constituents really feel, because I think he should be. I'm hearing from people in Nailsea, in Felton, and in Portishead who have contacted him that he either doesn't want to get involved, can't get involved, or whatever, for whatever reason. But as he's a representative of the people of North Somerset, I beg him to stand up in Parliament and air the views of his constituencies, whatever he feels personally, but air the views of the people that live here to this government. Sorry, you're not planning for the future. You're reacting and panicking about it because you probably have a plan to start off with. But however, I urge people, please get the consultation filled in, get it in there, get it to North Somerset before Friday if possible, and if you've got time, send a copy to our MP as well to let him know exactly how you feel about the potential removal of the green belt from around Western Bigwood in particular, the threat that is to not just wildlife but people as well.
No, absolutely. And also, I'm just going to say, Chris, the other thing you've got is the Gordano Valley is already a natural floodplain anyway. You build on Western Bigwood, where is that water going to go? It's I mean, you know, Western Bigwood, I mean, they're not going to build on Western Bigwood, but you know what I mean, it's a delicate ecosystem that carefully manages or helps to manage the water table in the area. Now, we know as people who travel up and down the road there, how frequently that all floods, especially around by Gordano School. And if you build on Tower Farm and around Western Bigwood, it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Lipgate Place, high rainstorm. If the main river is tide locked, namely they can't let the water out from the Portbury ditch into the river. That's when you can't cross the zebra crossing without a snorkel at Lipgate Place.
Mhm.
And that's been getting worse since the police training centre was put in. And they do any more major development, it'll get worse again.
Well,
We are
if you
gonna-
want, if you want to know about the effects of flooding from new development, just go down to the Somerset levels and talk to the farmers down there.
Well,
They'll tell you all about it.
or Chris, go for a walk down the marina and see how, because that was built on floodplain, on when you have quite like we've had recently, we've had some quite rainy days, is how the paths down there just flood instantly because there's nowhere for the water to go, and it's not going to work. Building near Western Bigwood is going to be, my personal opinion, is it's going to be an ecological disaster. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for the wildlife. It's going to be bad for us as human beings. And I don't think any of this house building, this proposed house building in and around Portishead, I don't think it's going to make a dent. The only thing it's going to do is increase the profits of developers.
Exactly.
On that note, we are going to have to wrap this up, gents. Any closing statements or observations?
Peter.
Please make sure you put your consultations in before the end of the week.
Yeah, we will dig out the link for that and put it on our Facebook page.
Have you got the link to the Gordena Valley plan for its future as well, which I sent to you before? I'll send it again
yes,
now,
please.
which that's the piece of work done in the 1980s to show the importance.
That would be brilliant. Thank you.
Right.
But yeah, we'll put the link up on our Facebook page, and we'll try and encourage as many people as possible to get their comments in before 5 p.m. on Friday. Unless anybody's got anything else to say, I think we'll wrap that up if that's okay, gents. Big thank you
very
to
much, Peter.
yes, big thank you to Councillor Peter Burden. Big thank you to Chris Sperring. Big thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight, and thank you for your comments. Get your responses into North Somerset Council. That's our message for tonight. So, Chris, we really got to try and do another live soon, haven't we? It's we've got so much to talk about. We've got Swift boxes to talk about. We've got other plans and things that we're looking at doing for 2026. So I think
we ought to also state that we've got a new executive member of Wild Portishead. Yay!
We have. So we will try and do another live in the new year. So and very early in the new year. So anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. And we will hopefully see you again very soon. But get your comments into the consultation. See you soon. Take care. And a Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye-bye.
And a happy